I'm not a stage fright person. I love to have a go. So I did. I've served in high office. I've been in an amazing band. You know, I got kissed on the arse by that rainbow, no question. Occasionally I've been booted as well.
You show no remorse, you show no concern.
Once stuff's happened, you can't change that. There's nothing that I think about the past that's going to change what happened in the past. So I really do tend to concentrate on the mo.
Come and sit in, Pete. They're the kind of chairs you sink right into.
Trying to get the heights right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you sit in and just see if you're comfortable, and then we can put more cushions in. Is that all right?
I'm absolutely happy.
All right. Everyone happy? Everyone's phones off and.
Yeah, I've put mine away.
Okay. Okay. Pete, I've found out before we are actually in the location where you recorded a fair bit of this new album. Your producer told me that he had to clean some scuff marks off the floor because he's got so much physicality when you're recording that, yes, you left little traces of Peter Garrett here.
With every record I've been involved with, you know, I really do like to just try and get as deep into it as I possibly can, and I'm shutting everything else out a little bit. And, you know, if that means that the odd door gets lent on or a mic gets wrangled in the process, then I don't really notice that. You know, I get very intense about the business of actually trying to communicate the lyric or the song or the idea into that microphone, into that mixing desk, and then wherever it goes after that. There's an element of obsession in it for us who do this stuff, which says to yourself, okay, when I get out of here, I will go and buy the milk and I'll walk the dog and I'll do those things, and life will have that degree of normalcy, which I treasure. But when I'm in this zone, this very special, rare place, I'm just going to forget all of that, and I'm just going to really try and pour my guts into what it is I'm doing. And we're talking about rock here, Leigh. It's 4/4 time. There's 5 or 6 chords. You know, it's not rocket science in a way, but getting it to work well is much more about feel than it is about, you know, technical prowess.
So how do you decide when something's going to be a solo project versus a band project?
Well, I mean, the Oils have always done side projects, but Midnight Oil Music came first. So now that we've come off the road from touring full time, there's a bit of space for a few songs to get taken up and used.
Out of the schoolyard, shut out by the noise, last rites and the feasting, men acting like boys.
Is it intimidating to put something out by yourself?
No, not really. It's fun. You get to call the shots. I love sharing and collaborating with people, and working with the Oils was one of the great big respect moments of my entire working life. But it's also lovely, and I'm sure the others say the same thing, to be in a studio yourself and you're stirring the pot, you're deciding what ingredients go in, and you're fiddling around with your own thoughts and your own way of approaching it, as opposed to taking other people into account.
You've had a long career now. Can you remember the first time that you ever held a Midnight Oil album in your hands and thought, oh, made an actual album?
You know, it feels like yesterday. No, really. I mean, younger people watching this will sort of go, oh, whatever. But people of my generation will go, yeah, you're damn right. I mean, it just goes so fast. It doesn't matter how many people say that to you until you experience it yourself. You're not ready for it.
Do you know, I Googled your age before and I went, 70? What? No, he can't be 70.
Yeah, well, that's what I say every morning. But no, look, I do remember the joy of it. I never thought that I'd get to make a record. I wanted to share it with my gran, you know, who didn't really understand the business at all, and said, oh, that's very nice, dear.
And so how did you join Midnight Oil?
It's answering an ad in the Sydney Morning Herald, put in there by Rob and Jim, as they had a schoolboy band that was touring up and down the coast. And I love to sing. I was in the choirs at school. I was in a church choir. Technically, I probably wasn't much of a singer back in the day, but that wasn't the point. It was what you brought to it.
Tell us about this bloke.
Really the first film clip we're looking at, isn't it? And we're very young. And the voice is a little high and there's a bit of hair. I think this is the first clip we ever made.
So different to video clips of today.
Yeah, 25 minutes, one camera. And I don't even know where it got showed, but yeah, we're very young.
So how old do you reckon you are there?
I'm thinking 22, 23 maybe.
Most Australians know you with the shaved head. What was the origin of that?
Oh, look, it's an old story that goes back to when Andrew, my brother, and I were trying to get photos published in a surfing magazine at the time. We had an underwater camera, but we kept on getting frustrated. Either the photos weren't good enough or there was strands of hair across the, because you had to print them in the old days. You couldn't just Photoshop it out. So I got it cut short to deal with that for being in the water a lot. And when I got it cut very short, I thought I looked like someone that worked in a bank. And I thought, that's not right. I'm in a band. So I got it all taken off and that was what happened.
We all have these sliding doors moments in our lives. Do you ever stop and think, geez, well, what if I just hadn't read the paper that day? Or what if I hadn't got around to ringing?
No, exactly. And I was working on a building site. And for me, it was an alternative to lugging bricks.
Do you believe in fate?
No, not in the sense that most people do. But I believe in the same way as I believe in luck. I think fate plays a role and I think luck plays a role, but it only plays a role in dealing with what the individual or the collective have brought to it. Like you just can't sit in a room by yourself sort of going, and then fate will sort of intervene. You need to be out and about. You need to be moving forward. You need to be active. You need to be trying. And then maybe occasionally, you might get a bit of a lift from the universe. So
are you religious? Do you believe in God?
I used to be more religious than I am now. I still believe in the immanence of creation, if you like, and the sense that what our very inarticulate views of what God are worth having and sharing. But I don't believe and I don't subscribe to orthodox conventional religions at all. And I think, they're particularly now, I think that they're not contributing to the healing and the goodwill in the world.
What are your memories of the early gigs with the band when you first started pulling decent-sized audiences?
Rob is without any question probably the finest visual drummer and physical drummer that the country has ever produced, maybe the world, as well as being a great singer and songwriter. And to have Martin and Jim on either side doing what they do with their guitars, they're producing a textural interplay which is completely underrated. And I'll be going, wow, listen to this. I mean, for me, that's the thing. I wasn't looking at the audience and thinking, how can I impress you? I was listening to the band and thinking, wow, they're impressing me. And that gave me the fuel.
Okay, how about this one?
It's the Capitol Theatre and it's the band, really playing seriously as though its life depends on it, which it actually did. Because we come back with Place Without a Postcard. We were broke. The record company overseas had dropped us. I think we were just ferociously determined to prove to ourselves that what we were doing had some worth and some value, and that it was okay to sing about politics, which is part of life. And if the record company didn't like it, well, too bad. Here we were.
Greetings, New York. This is Midnight Oil. We decided to play some songs in the street for you today.
Peter Garrett and Midnight Oil have won international acclaim for their music. One American critic describes them as simply the best rock band in the world. But the medium also carries a message.
We chose a special location, the front of the Exxon building. I'll leave you to work out why.
All right, have a look at this one.
Goat Island, unquestionably. I mean, it was amazing that we actually got the permission to do the show there. We do this amazing broadcast. And it's one of those ones where every single thing that could go right actually did go right, including the big ship that came across just as we were finishing US forces.
You're a very distinctive person, both in looks and talent. How does that sit with you?
I don't really analyse myself much, Leigh. I'm not very introverted, or I don't spend a lot of time hopefully gazing at my navel. I don't think about it too much. I just go off and do.
Just move through the world.
Pretty much.
When you first started out, did you actually kind of think about, well, this is what I'm going to be like on stage, this is how I'm going to make my voice sound?
No, not at all. I mean, I had Rob behind me, which was incredible for that entire career. I was just responding to the music. You do get an energy from your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And adrenaline.
Now, where is... I think this is the one I'm looking for.
Actually, that's doing the film clip, Dead Heart, and here are kids from Mutijulu community dancing. Such a special and important thing for us to do as a band. Often remarked on, but I think the legacy is incredible. It left an indelible imprint on us. It changed us, made us better people, made us understand that white Australia did have a black history, and we made some friends there for life.
How about those kids?
Kids are great.
They're just, and their inherent kind of musicality and just
absolutely.
getting it,
Yeah, no. And it was always the case when you play to those remote communities. A lot of people would sit back and we were loud, probably too loud sometimes, but the kids would just be straight up and in your face, dancing their heads off.
One of the most iconic moments in Australian music and activism was Midnight Oil taking the stage at the 2000 Sydney Olympic closing ceremony, dressed in black with the words "sorry" emblazoned on you, a reaction to the then Prime Minister John Howard's refusal to apologise to the stolen generations. What do you remember about the lead up to that performance and taking the stage?
So we knew that when we were asked to do it, we would do something. We had a lot of toing and froing and discussion, very Midnight Oil. And in some ways that was just pretty consistent with how we were doing things previously. We'd done actions of all kinds, sometimes to only a handful of people. It just happened to be a much bigger audience this time. I mean, I realised it was going to work when suddenly I could just see this huge wave of athletes from all countries running towards us, waving their hands in the air, and then you saw the crowd go up in the stands, with the exception of Mr. and Mrs. Howard. And I just felt that it was a summation of what we'd done over the years, to be in that spot at that time and to pull it off without falling flat on our faces.
The song you sang was Beds Are Burning. I'd say the first three chords of that song are possibly the most recognisable and iconic opening in Australian music history. Bam, bam, bam. I reckon 95% of people over the age of 40 could identify that song from the opening 2 seconds. Can you recall how those start chords came to be there?
No. Sorry, Leigh.
Get him out, get Rob Hurst in.
We were mucking around with it. It was written before we went out into the desert in its initial phase. Rob had this great chorus, so we thought, that's such a strong chorus. The words were fantastic. And it was just a case of how would the band make a song from that? And we were fiddling around with things over time. And I think that either Jim or Rob and Jim or Martin, they were playing and they just came up with, this is how we're going to sort of get in there, keep it as simple and as truncated in a way as possible before you pick up on that beat.
Out where the river broke.
Look, everybody brings whatever they can to a song like that, and we just were able, on this occasion at least, to bring something to it which lifted it up to where it needed to be.
The time has come to say fair's fair.
And this idea of the time has come, I always thought that we needed to recognise the urgency of the time that we were in and just have a way of just, almost barking that out. But then you come back into the choruses.
How can we dance when our earth is turning? How do we sleep while our beds are burning?
Midnight Oil, because you always did sing about politics, you could have ended up being a niche band because maybe half the audience would be alienated from the lyrics, but the exact opposite thing happened. You've extreme mainstream popularity. How do you explain that?
Well, I think it's partly down to the music and the songwriting, in as much as there's plenty there for people to get into, even if they don't want to listen to the words straight away. But also, we're not really saying this is what you've got to think. We're saying this is what we think.
Tonight, speculation over. Peter Garrett joins the Labor ranks, saying he's ready for the Canberra challenge.
Okay, this is a political montage.
I, Peter Garrett, do swear that I will well and truly serve the Commonwealth of Australia.
Well, yeah, coming into politics and all the media attention that you'd expect.
Were you ready for that because you had a profile?
Oh, look, it comes with the turf, I suppose. Even the combative side of it, when you're getting criticised, maybe unfairly, by people on the other side. It's all a part of it.
The time has come to say fair's fair. Righto.
There was a bit of mockery because you had the high profile with Peter Costello with the,
the silly dancing.
Yeah. In politics, you have to compromise and be accountable in a way that you just don't have to when you're an activist or an advocate. What did being on the inside teach you?
Well, it taught me how important government is. I mean, I already knew that before I went in. It's partly why I did. But it taught me how important it is and how, if government gets it right, it can make big changes that improve the lives of people in a country. It also was a reflection of this idea that you never really want to see how a sausage is made before you chomp on it with your tomato sauce, because it is a long, interminable, sometimes conflicted process. But that's the nature of the beast. And I think that we hold our politics up quite rightly to the light of inquiry and criticism. But I think we need to do it in a realistic way to recognise that we haven't worked through the best way to be democratic. It's a work in progress. I
think you wrote something in your book, from the day you get there till the day you leave, it's an exercise in losing skin.
Yeah. Well, that goes without saying. I mean, it's partly the adversarial nature of politics. I mean, there were people on the other side of the house that wanted to say anything they could about people on our side. And look, I was a high-profile entrance to politics, and most of those people have found that situation pretty difficult and probably not lasted at all. I was the only non-factionalised member of the cabinet. I was in the cabinet for 2 terms. It's a tremendous honour, and you're doing things which hopefully make a difference.
Politics is a bit like life in that you never can be quite sure, what's going to come along, who's going to be up, who's going to be down. Was Anthony Albanese someone that you envisaged becoming PM one day?
Not really, no. I mean, when I was in the Parliament, Anthony was the manager of government business in the House, as well as a senior cabinet minister. So his capacity was pretty clear. But no, I didn't really think that necessarily that's where he was going to end up, but I'm glad he has.
Do you follow it closely now?
Not as closely as I probably did when I first got out, but close enough.
What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory is, believe it or not, under a Hills Hoist clothesline, looking at a blue sky. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. Born in Australia.
Very sadly, you lost your dad as a teenager when he died of an asthma attack. And then tragically, your mum perished in a house fire when you were in your early 20s. And you were the only other person in the house that you tried to rescue her, but that it was impossible. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Well, thank you for reflecting that back, Leigh. And I've got a fair distance between that event and today. And the only abiding memory I have, apart from the affection that you have from your mum and the sense that there was something about that was quite difficult, is to know what she was like as a person. And if I find bits and pieces of that in my life or in others, then I can really celebrate it. And so that's really honouring the life that she lived. And look, you don't have to look far or wide to see people going through unimaginable stuff every day. This is what life's like. I mean, if you're in a war zone, you're experiencing grief and suffering and stuff tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold beyond what I experienced. So I just try and honour her memory, but I also didn't let myself get defined by it, because I think I was lucky enough, or perhaps just had an insight that I needed to keep moving again. And I thought about this before I came in to chat with you, because I thought, I'm a bit surprised that I'm making a record now. I'm a bit surprised that songs have been dropping out of the sky. I'm a bit surprised that I've still got this real appetite to do it and this real energy to do it. And I don't know whether that's just DNA, got a bit lucky with DNA, or whether it's a mental thing of mental disciplines. Maybe it's a combination of all. But I do know that part of it is having this sense that you're a sitting duck if you just sit there complaining and doing nothing. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are in this world, particularly in Oz, keep moving.
What do you think was the effect on you of losing both your parents quite early in your life?
Probably made me a bit more independent, independently minded. I mean, I'm the eldest I've got 2 other brothers, and so you tend to be a little bit responsible and, want to sort of take charge and do all of that. There's no surprises with me. That's what I'm like as a person. I think it also just taught me that, life's incredibly precious. And I lived on the North Shore of Sydney, apart from, a bunch of sort of high rollers in Monaco, it doesn't get any better. And then suddenly they're gone. So it's a very quick lesson in how precious life is, and that absolute cliche but deep truth, make the most of every day.
What would you say to people right now who are going through something and they feel like it's too much, it's irrecoverable?
Well, it will pass, or it can pass. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing is that I think most of us are stronger than we actually think, and that when our backs are right up against the wall, you can dig in and find a strength or a resilience, but you need to share with somebody. You need to have someone that you can talk to, and to find that person, family member, friend, or even a professional person to help you, to discover the strength that we all have, and if we don't have enough strength, to find people that can help us through that moment.
This is from your book. It's a montage of you and Doris and the kids. It's just lots of different shots.
I'll get emotional now. Our wedding. And
how many years ago is that now?
38 years maybe, which is incredible. My sweetheart and our first on the beach, where we used to spend quite a bit of time. A beautiful woman. Yeah, look, how lucky am I? I can't say much more.
Super, super lucky.
Yeah, super, super lucky.
And the kids are all grown up now.
Exactly.
Those little kids aren't there anymore. They're big kids.
Yeah, no, there they are as younger ones. If anybody gets an opportunity to have family, it's the rarest, most special, but most common of all things. And my challenge, and I try and say this to myself every day, is not to take it for granted. Here I am with my girls and couldn't be happier, really. Dressed up a bit, but...
Do you get to see them a lot? Do everyone...
We're close. Yeah, we are a close family, and we value the relationships greatly, and we see one another as much as we can without the old man and the old woman getting in their way.
How important has your wife Doris been in enabling you to live large and make bold decisions?
More important than anyone could know. I mean, we've chosen for her to have a private life, and she's had a private professional life, but she is without any question the absolute rock, and more than words can express, Leigh.
You write in your memoir, Big Blue Sky, that in the early 90s when you joined the board of Greenpeace, you should have paused, as I'd intended to give more time to Doris and our marriage, but I failed to appreciate how necessary this was at the time. She was the light of my life, but I wasn't around enough to kindle the flame. How did you, for lack of a better word, wake up to yourself?
Well, it took me a while, so I was pretty slow and a bit selfish on that. And I think that I partly woke up to myself because I was flying back from wherever and just thinking, I've been away for too long. Partly because of the conversations that Doris and I were able to have, and she'd been remarkably forgiving and staunch. But even for someone as strong as her, there was a point where she had to say to me, hey, look at what's happening here. And I think I needed to realise that to value the relationship and the marriage and to keep the marriage strong and going well, I needed to try and make some changes.
As you said at the start too, your first album, you took it around to show your gran. You can be Peter Garrett, you can be the lead singer of the biggest rock band in the world, but if you don't have anyone to share that with and talk to about it, then what is it? No,
absolutely. And, I look at a lot of my contemporaries, and the history of modern rock is littered with people who, get to the dizzying heights and within a second, they're down in the gutter and they're desolate or they're dead, and often lonely. So, I think that Midnight Oil itself didn't have this all-consuming desire to be at the top, to scale the charts, to get bigger and bigger, to earn more and more money. And we all, in different times, said, no, we can't live anywhere else to do this. We need to be able to come back home. We need to be able to reconnect with our families, with our loved ones. It gives us that sense of who we are. We would have been adrift on the sea if we had ended up in LA or New York for too long. I don't know what would have happened, but I suspect it wouldn't have been pretty.
There was one photo left, sorry, that I forgot to show you. All right. Who's this dude and what's he doing?
This is taken in Byron Bay before it got overtaken by real estate developers and influencers. This is the much better Byron period.
Waiting for a wave, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
This was the golden surfing era, probably.
That is the golden surfing era, yeah, no question.
So do you still surf?
No, I don't. Well, I've just developed a really weird allergy thing to cold water, unfortunately, which is just, it's like a medical thing which keeps me out of cold water. So if it's warm, I'll go in, but otherwise I can't.
Was that a big loss?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a big loss. It's a weird thing that came about actually just when I went into politics, and it was meant to go away after 5 or 6 years. Actually, it's funny because when I walked out of the parliament, I thought, I'll bet, my weird condition that stops me surfing will go away, but it stayed. So.
Oh. With this new album, True North, the themes are consistent with the themes that have preoccupied you your whole adult life, the environment, Indigenous rights and so on. There's lots of different things people can care about. Why do you think for you those two things are the things that have really weighed on you?
On the environment, someone said, look, we've got a first world economy and a third world approach to thinking about nature, which I happen to agree with. And if we talk about Indigenous rights, the modern Australian state in many ways is a great success story, except that we've got one big thing which we need to get right, which is how the country came into being and the fact that there actually were Australian Indigenous people here first and it was taken from them. And I've always felt that if we got that right, if we settled that first dispossession, that first original sin, if you like, then the prospects of the country are great. So, because you're not carrying around this stuff that's inside of you, making you feel a bit uncomfortable, you don't really want to look or think about it.
So you're 70 now, you've just done this new album. What are your plans from here? How would you like the rest of your life to look?
So I don't look that much ahead. I really do try and take it day to day. I firmly believe in it's the moment. It's carpe diem, isn't it? Seize the day, and I'm a great adherent to that idea. And I just really value the extraordinary circumstance of still being here at this time, talking to you with these songs and with this energy. I'll keep doing what I'm doing until at some point I get lowered into the ground or scattered into the sea, and then you'll probably hear this faint echo from a distance. I've got more to say.
You say